Welcome to everyone here in Brussels and the people online. I see that there are still people joining us, so I will start slowly so you can pick them when you come into this Connect and Learn of today with TDSO and VLIRUOS, members of the Educate platform. My name is Michaela van Breda. I'm the Educate coordinator, and Educate is the Belgian platform for education and development. We have about 50 member organizations, and today we have with us one of our member organizations, TDSO from Cambodia, and VLIRUOS. Educate organize Connect and Learn sessions to share best practices with the member organizations. So today we have Connect and Learn on navigating the data landscape, practical insights from actors in development cooperation. Desmaele from TDSO and Michaela Stubbers from VLIRUOS will share their experiences with you. It will be an interactive session, so there is enough space for Q&A. You can ask your questions in the chat box, Q&A, and our moderator of today, Peter Streamers, will share the questions with our speakers. We can also, for our participants here in Brussels, you can also ask the questions during the sessions. So I wish you a nice Connect and Learn with a lot of insights, I hope. And I give the floor to Peter Streamers, who is the founder of Educomundo and member of our steering committee, and also active member of the project group Digitization for Education, and the moderator of the day. So Peter, the floor is yours. I give you the opportunity to present our speakers and to start the conversation.
Also from my side, welcome everybody here in the room and online. Today we have two esteemed speakers, as we used to say. And the first one is going to be Michaela Stubbers from VLIRUOS. And I pronounced it correctly. VLIRUOS. Michaela is the head of the digital factory at VLIRUOS, where she is leading the digital innovation and implementing a comprehensive data-driven approach to optimize the impact. Very important. She is from a data-driven strategic background and is also the digital transformation expert. Now, beyond the technical part, she is also an advocate on a couple of things that are quite important related to data, which is data ethics, artificial intelligence-driven innovation, digital inclusion. From her job, she is actively involving also in mentoring students and collaborating on artificial intelligence enhancing systems or enhanced systems, and is representing the VLIRUOS in global platforms on digital development. So Michaela will be our first speaker, followed by Mark Desmaele, and Mark is also a long-standing member of Educate, operating from Cambodia, from Siem Reap, and he is the founder of TDSO, the Teacher Development Support Organization. After more than 30 years in international companies, he decided to change or exchange the weather in Belgium with the warm weather in Cambodia, because he just told me that he thought it was really cold now and he's longing to get back to Siem Reap. But he decided to turn his life around and to dedicate his expertise in supporting educational projects in Cambodia. So I'd like to invite Michaela first to start with your presentation. And for people both in the room and online, please overwhelm us with questions so that my job as the moderator is also easy to perform. Michaela.
So I'm, as Peter said, I'm Michaela and I'm from VLIRUOS. I don't know if the people joining here today know VLIRUOS, but VLIRUOS is the organization that funds partnerships between Flemish higher education institutes here in Flanders and higher education institutes in the Global South. So our core mission is to fund research and also to fund scholarships. And we do this by connecting people. So our focus is really to connect people that work in the same interest and the same disciplines, and also by generating knowledge about the topics that are important for us, such as indeed open data and open science, but also uptake and other things. That's a little bit what VLIRUOS is doing. And at VLIRUOS, we are now implementing a data-driven approach for about 3 years. And it fits our organization very well because we are not ourselves an implementing organization. We do not do research, or we do not go to the Global South and do things ourselves. We really facilitate our members to do the research. So we collect a lot of information. We do all kind of stuff with the information, and then we give it back in a certain way. So a data-driven approach is really working very well for us. If I'm going to the next slide, I would say like why data-driven now? Anybody has an idea about why data-driven is such a hype right now? Or is it a hype? Is it a trend? I don't know. Any ideas about it? No, maybe in the chat, I don't know if there are. I don't see it. Just a little bit to get you thinking about, because I think everyone or everybody here heard already a lot about data-driven work. So I think the main reason why data-driven is such a hype these days is because data is, of course, everywhere. They're always saying data is the new oil. It's like data, we are generating data. At this moment, we are generating data by doing the presentation online, and it's just everywhere. There are cameras, satellites, or everything you do with your mobile phone generates data. We are just overwhelmed by data these days. And if you look at the graph here, you also see that the data storage, that there is an exponential growth. Within 4 years, they think that the data to be stored will be like more than twice the amount of the data that is stored these days. The only limited capacity there is to store data is energy and materials. It's still real materials that are really taken from the earth, let's say. It sounds all quite fluffy, but it still has to be stored somewhere. So people are really working on this to see how we can even store more data these days. So it's not a hype any longer, it's really a trend, and it started also very early. If you think about Google, when they started as a search engine, it was to mine data. It was because they were already thinking about how we will feed our IE to train our models. We need data, so they started with a search engine. So it took a long time to be at this moment where we are now on this tipping point where this data is also accessible and is used in a lot of ways. A little bit why data-driven works. It's or why it matters. I'm just having 2 small examples here. One in the educational sector, and then the one that we worked a lot on VLIRUOS. So if you look in an educational sector, a real-world example is, for example, declining graduation rates. In the school, people were collecting data in a manual way, just the attendance things, and then at the moment they started collecting it in a digital way, and they could do something with the data and analyze the data. They could indeed identify risk factors for dropout. And when you can identify risk factors for dropout, you can have early warning systems and you can target your actions and really work on this. So this is a real world example with a very simple analysis, with very simple things that you can have a big impact. For us at VLIRUOS, the biggest project we worked on until now, we have 2. One is more on the communication side. The other one is in accountability, like how we collect our financial information. Before we did it in a not data-driven way. Now we do it in a data-driven way. And we have an overview very quickly of what's going on in our projects. If you look at 3 years ago, we had an overview of our financials like 4 months later than we had it this year. So we had people give the data to us, we have to control it. It took us after the deadline of this period 3 months to gather all the data, to gather them in one file, to do the quality checks for delivering to our funders and the auditor. This year we had the data ready 1 month before the deadline. So it's in 1 year time, a gain of 4 months, and which delivers a lot because we have a view on the cash flow. We can predict a lot better how many more projects we can do. So it has an enormous impact also on the quality of the data. Then people are always talking about the new oil, but what are we now talking about? Why is it the new oil? I'm saying it here a little bit. You also maybe have thoughts about it, but it's again about this. It's everywhere. You find everywhere parts of data, but you cannot do anything with it if you do not refine the data and if you do not make it accessible. So there is really a big analogy with the oil. And the next, you really have to work with the data to make it valuable. And then once you have this data and made it valuable, you can use it for loads of things. How we work is we have a digital framework and we work on these 3 topics that I visualize here. We have operational excellence, we have insight creation, and then we have enhanced and new experiences. So the focus is always on these 3 topics. Everything that we do should contribute to these topics. And data is also used, people not always think about it, but data is also used for operational excellence by automating actions. Like repetitive work, it's now all automated. If you look in our process, how we work, all the mails that we send before by hand, they are now automated. It's the data, changes in data that initiate processes. Also, if you think about the AI agents that people are talking about now, it's all that data does things for you. So it's not only about dashboarding and insights, but it's also really about initiating actions and doing the actions. They are taking over a lot of our work. The enhanced experiences, it can be smart products. Smart products is always linked to devices that collect data and that customize the experience. For VLIRUOS, we also focus a lot on this connected ecosystem where we try to connect data from different sources. In the financials, it's project financials with accountancy data, for example. But it could also be for the projects where we link our projects with open data that's available, publications, for example, things that are interesting for our community and that we now can start linking together and then give back to our community. So the next question is, what does data-driven mean exactly? So anyone, any ideas? If there are questions in the chat, people interrupt me then. Any idea about what we are talking about? Because it's indeed, we use it a lot, data-driven, but what does it exactly mean?
Making decisions based on evidence and data.
Yeah, that's certainly one, evidence-based. The data-driven serves making evidence-based decisions. It's absolutely. We are a small group, as it's
based on facts and not on feelings.
Yeah, that's
impressions.
Yeah. Indeed. That's indeed. Yeah. Also the evidence-based. So data-driven work really serves evidence-based based working. But what it really means in practice, if you look like how you set up your applications, it's really about this paradigm shift where we think about the data first. If we look back a while ago, all applications were process-driven. You looked at your process and you try to build your process in your applications. And then the data came, but it was scattered all around. So you could not really do anything with it. If you want to work data-driven, you always have to focus on what information is now interesting for us to make these evidence-based decisions or to initiate certain actions. So the focus really shifts. You have to think about like comparing an email application with an Excel file, for example. In the email, it's really process driven. It serves for mailing. You mail something, you get it back. And then in an Excel, it's really made to do something with the data. Eh? So suppose you want to ask 1,000 people something and you send an email and they all send you the answer back in an email. You cannot do anything with it. To do something with it, you have to get the answer out of the email, put it in another file, and then you can start working with it. Yeah.
Does it also mean that it is a kind of knowledge management that means that you want to know more about your partners, consumers, network? And secondly, does it also mean that there is a technology? It's a technological platform. Is it part of it or not?
Maybe I can, just for those people online, just repeat shortly
Yes, okay, that's good.
your question. So twofold question. One hand, does it mean that it's a knowledge platform on one hand, and on the other hand, it's also the technological part of it. So that, that's basically the question.
So it's to build knowledge. Yeah? So the data-driven work is indeed supporting the building knowledge and getting to know your environment. And the technology that is used is always here in second place. So you first think about, again, what data do I need? And then you can think about what technology I will use and how I will build the processes around it. So the paradigm shift is really there. Eh? So if we look at VLIRUOS before, I'm just sticking to the main example that I gave you before, we also had a grant management platform. And it was really built around the process. So people loaded up their financial data, some documents. VLIRUOS reacted in this platform. They loaded up again documents, but it was all scattered around in these different files. Now they import it and we collect it in a big data warehouse and in a big database, and we can do a lot with the data immediately. And that's why we can, from day one, we have the aggregated overview and we can do all the monitoring. Yeah? I will show you the examples.
I think you give there the right verb, we can do.
Yes, indeed.
To me, data, actually, evidence-based, it's always about do.
Yeah.
Data which are not actionable, to me, have no value.
For me, not data, knowledge, because data is the basis of the pyramid.
Yeah. So that's indeed where we had this small. When you see this graph, you are looking indeed. Data has to be transformed to knowledge. So that's certainly true. But the paradigm shift is really there, that you think first about the data and then build your processes and your applications around it. This also, the added value is also that you are working around one source of truth. So before, for example, we had many files, and then I think you all know the problem. You have an Excel file Clara, an Excel file Micha, an Excel file final Marije, an Excel file final Marije. At least it works that way with us. So there was also no trust in the data often because too many mistakes happen. So that's also an additional advantage by storing it immediately in one database, because you can do that, you can check the data quality and you really work for one source of truth. People are always consulting this big database to get their data and to start working on it. I have a few examples like what we did. So how did we work on the operational excellence? It's really by automating a lot of processes and a lot of workflows. So how did we do it? Our new platform is now really built data-driven. So it means that it's not built any longer around the processes, but it also empowers us to define our actions based on the data ourselves. So if we want to send, for example, a notification or an automated email, we do not have to go to our developer, but we can use the data, and we use, at VLIRUOS, we are working in Microsoft, so we are using the RPA of Microsoft, but we use just RPA is low-code robotic process automation. So we can all do this ourselves. So we just design very nice mails. We can change it very easily when we want to do something else. So it's really easy to work with all this data to automate all these actions. Also the reports, for example, for our funder, but also for the people working in the projects, it's all automated now and generated automatically and sent automatically. There is no, there is of course still human interference to check, but that's all. So that's a little bit what we did around operational excellence. I can show you dashboards around it. So if you see, oops, can I move this now? So by collecting everything data driven, we could, for example, really collect data about the status of our process in a very easy way. So people could all, now the process is finalized, so you see that everything is completed, but we could monitor in a very, very easy way which project is behind, how the project is doing, and this data is at the same time also shared with all the stakeholders that are delivering the data. So we are always talking about the same thing, and that's also a very big advantage, of course. So it's a very easy way of working to monitor your process, to see what is happening in the process. So that's already a very big advantage. And then in the second, on the second thing that we worked is indeed insight creation for evidence-based insights. And also, so we are really thinking about in this open data ethos. So if you look at so many years ago, our projects, our scholars, they were all they were delivering this data to us for accountability, and we got it, and then it got, I think you all know it, it got stored somewhere in a file, but nobody could see it, nobody could do anything with it. And now we are really thinking we have to give back this data to the owner, also to showcase, of course, to showcase their projects, to really show the impact of what the people are doing, because we reach a lot of impact, but we just didn't show it enough. So this, of course, increases trust, accountability, also data democracy. And the second thing that it is doing is it empowers really our stakeholders, because the way that we work, the systems are really integrated. So we give our promoters, and I will give you a sneak preview in a moment of our stats website, but it's the people that are working in our projects that are filling out the fields, and it is this data that will be shown on the website. So they have also control about what will be shown. What's also easy and how we empower them as well, it's not only by that they give the data, but they are in control with what they share, but also as a user of this data platform, you can very easily extract data out of the platform. That's also, and you can work with it yourself. For us as VLIRUOS, it's very important because we want to inspire people with projects, but we also want to connect people. So it's really important if somebody in the Global South wants to work around water or something, that they can look at it, that they can look at our projects around water, that they can work with it, that they can ask for connections. In the future, we really want to enhance this with a lot more qualitative data as well. And that's also one I will talk about it at the end. Like, it's one of my advice that you always combine the quantitative with the qualitative, always the numbers with the stories, because it's so much more powerful, of course. And we also would like, if we have the budget, to integrate AI-enabled questions, because now we are working with dashboards, but actually dashboarding is already, again, a little bit outdated, and nowadays it's all AI-like. So this will be the statistics website that we are working on. You immediately can see a few key figures. You can see where we work. Also, this is now all data-driven, so we don't have to go back to the website developer to ask, make a new map if we work in a new country, like Palestine now, for example. Then we have some key statistics. You can go to the institutes, and then by clicking here, you can ask also for the project details. And that's what I was saying before. This content, it's now not looking really nice at this moment. So we are still working a little bit on the look and feels, But this is the data that the people of the project can manipulate themselves. So they are really empowered here. We also can share a lot about our scholars, nice graphs, very important for embassies, for example, where they can follow really live, okay, how many scholars from our country, for Cameroon, for example, are here, do have a scholarship of VLIRUOS. And what I also said before, like that people can work with the data is also very different. We have another website with our thematic GSK, where we also show all the data in the old way. So we will also move to the data-driven approach here, because this is really very frustrating for us, because we have to put in everything manually or import everything via Excel. It looks maybe a little bit nicer. You can also click on it. You will see the details of the project, but for our funders, they cannot extract any data out of this. So they really have to click a filter, but they cannot extract an Excel file and work on it themselves, for example. So that's a very, very big difference, of course. Okay, these are few examples that we are working on. Any questions?
Yeah, so the live data that you're talking about, is that accessible to the public?
Yes, it's the public. Yeah. So we really want to, it's for being transparent, but it's also for, Clara is our new communication manager, also for help her work, because we really want to showcase a lot more what we are doing. And like before, as I said, like, okay, they were talking about the projects in Word documents, we read them and we stored them, but nobody could see. And now we are trying really to showcase a lot more what they are doing and show their impact, so it can grow with indicators, for example, with publications that they do, we want to testimonials from scholars. We just collected nice videos from scholars. We can all add them also in a data-driven way. So we also will build it in our grant management platform, that they can upload pictures themselves, for example. And then we can show it. Also their publications, we can link the CVs of the academics, we can link, so there are endless possibilities now. But it's all for the public. We will launch it next week, I hope.
So we can find it on your platform.
Yes, on the website. Yeah.
And sorry, just another question. So you said this is AI driven?
No, at the moment it's not AI driven, but a new way, instead of dashboarding, will be AI driven, where you feed your own database, of course, and where you can ask questions. For example, if you want to know how many women academics we have in Ethiopia, for example, that you just can type this question, and the AI will generate a graph for you, but it will be based on our data. On our data, yes, absolutely. So it's small database, but it's that's the next step. Yeah.
I have several questions. One is more technical. So what you're suggesting is the platform with all those tools, and are they just regular tools that mothers can use, like Power BI and Power BI, for example, for the maps, or because
Yeah, it's something.
some of those elements that you're combining them?
Yes, indeed. Also for our grant management platform, we collect the data in a platform that someone developed with us, but we are also embedding it with a tool like Power BI. It's Luzmo, it's a startup from Leuven, which really, they started from embedded dashboards. And so that it's all under our control, and we don't have to go every time to the developer. So it's indeed combining different tools that we are doing. Also in the website now. Yeah.
In terms of the visibility of the platform.
The statistics?
Just accessibility.
The huge issue we have with technology in general, that a lot of it is mainstream and not using even sometimes the basic feature of accessibility. That allows you, for example, to enhance screen or to add a
Yes.
video or all of this.
Yeah, now for now the platform is best readable just on a computer, but we can indeed make it mobile. So we are still working on that. It's also readable on a mobile phone, but it's browser based. It's all in the browser for now.
One remark and one question, because for me, when you present it's more and more data, and if you ask me too much, and especially when you on more than we need.
Yes,
because
indeed.
you, for example, collect a lot of data that they're actually not giving.
Yes.
I have a baseline with the name of the brother and sister of the child, which I will never do anything with it. So do you have internally rules about data that we stop collecting because we have discovered they're not useful, or a limitation to the
I
data
think-
you want to collect? Because, and I think it's kind of the trick. It's not good for the environment, we all know. But you use water and a lot of other things. So I don't know, how do you reflect on the data you were collecting and how useful it was, when it was keeping all those data? Because, like you say, for example, data searching, that's quicker, and I agree. It needs to be somewhere accessible. So being using electricity there with somebody to look for it. So and it's it's shy, and
yeah,
5,000 people we need, so it's gonna be so much data we're already struggling with this.
We're already struggling, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Maybe just because people
Yeah.
cannot really hear what's happening here. So long question, but I will try to keep it short. It's like, really has the, do you have something in place that actually filters out the data that you are not going to use? Do you have a process in place? Because indeed, redundant data that's not being used, it takes electricity, it has an impact on the environment. Have you been preactively looking into this, so that not as an afterthought, but really something that has been by design included? That's, I think,
I
right
think,
way.
yeah. I think what's by design included is by having this one source of truth that you already are working on, that you have less copies and less repetition. I'm not saying it's now the case at our, because we also have to work on the data life cycle, and we have to have the courage almost to delete data. So we are working on that. But by having it all in one source, it does indeed avoid endless copies and endless finals, and it also does it does limit asking the same thing over and over again. And that we already see, of course. Before, we asked for our scholars in year 1 this data, and it was scattered in Excel and nobody trusted it. So in year 2, you ask the same data again, and in year 3, you ask the same data again, because maybe now suddenly he's married and he wasn't married before, but you did ask all the questions all over. And now, by having it in one platform, you show the same data element, and they can change it. And so in that way, it's built in by design, and it's one of the key takeaways at the end. It's not about data exhaust, it's really about data empowerment, and indeed limiting your data to what you need. So the reflection always is also, that's also the data first principle. Think about what you need and what you're going to use. Of course, there are some limitations, I think, because you do not know upfront what you will use in the future. So it's always a little bit of a balance. Pictures also take a lot of power, and movies, but yeah, if we want to have testimonials, it will be pictures and movies. So we are already collecting them now, but we are not actively using them now. But we are, of course, already collecting them. So it's a very valid question. It's really a balance, and I really think that at VLIRUOS, what we are looking now is really the data lifecycle, but it's more in the filing system, where we want to delete endless copies, and also with the versioning, if you are working in Microsoft, I think, so that's already the first action that I took, that we delete versioning older than 3 months, for example, automatic versioning. So we are looking into this, because yeah, we are all worried about it, absolutely. Other questions?
Yes, and then what are the risks? We talked a lot about the positive things,
Mhm.
which is great and thank you.
Mhm.
But I'm just wondering about the risks, and I have a specific the idea in mind. If we are collecting data on, let's say, the impact of a new teaching approach and learning outcomes, and it shows no improvement in learning outcomes, then the truths that data might reveal is that teaching approach wasn't effective. But there might be other things that aren't getting measured, like maybe nutrition, for example, but if that's not measured, it's not there. So what are the risks then of this data-driven approach in truth?
I will repeat the question. So the question is, we talked about all the good things of the data, but what are the risks specifically in making decisions? And the example was for a teacher, new teacher program or an educational program that the outcome from the data is it's no improvement, but it's only based on the measurements that you have taken, while the actual reason could be something that's not been measured, like malnutrition and things like that. But in the meantime, people say it's not a good program. We will no longer fund it. It's going to be stopped.
Yeah, you
Yes.
could also, yeah. I can see, I will talk about risks later. So we come back to the question as well, and it's indeed, but it's absolutely a very valid question. There are also many risks involved. I'm just going a little bit to the edtech now, how you can use yourself indeed more a data-driven approach. Like the lowest level is just giving back the data that you have, monitoring and reporting. A little bit higher, we are in the analysis, like you just mentioned, where you're gonna think about analyzing the data and do a lot more. And then on the highest level, of course, you have the adaptive and personalized learning. Also, all these things are based on data-driven approaches, because you have to know your learner, in your cases often, to give them something data-driven and to respond to their needs. I found some of these data-driven applications online. Maybe you know a lot more or a lot better applications, but these are all data-driven applications that are used now and are also developed in the Global South. So we will share the slides later. I think you can have a look at them if they are interesting. But then challenges, that is my question. What is challenges? We just already heard one. What if you don't have the data to have the right, to make the right analysis? Any other challenges that you are thinking of? Yes, indeed, data protection is also. Yes, indeed.
Private information.
Very, very big challenge as well, indeed.
Fabrication and manipulation of data.
Manipulation of data, data is not always, it's not always revealing the truth, like you said as well. You can show data in many, many different ways. It's not neutral as we thought. And we once thought that photography was also, that was a neutral picture. It's not, it always reflects like the view of the one that's taking the photo, and that's the same with data, how you give it back. It reflects your view. It's also one of the challenges, absolutely.
So just picking up on something, I think that in the whole education and development space at the moment, you see maybe 4 or 5 organizations or programs who have become really great at mining data, presenting it, and actually using it to actually say, well, our programs are data-driven and evidence-based. And then, all the others are useless. And things like teacher professional development at scale, we know is really hard to prove that you're going to get quick learning outcomes from that. But increasingly now, if you can't show that and show that in a relatively short space of time, often your programs are just deemed to be no good.
Yeah, that's maybe I repeat, and I think that's a very good point, is that we could potentially go into a situation where those who have data systems, just in general, and those who do not have, for whatever reason, that the ones who do not have it are actually falling out of the boat,
Mhm.
and the other ones just go away with all of the grants and all of the things.
Yeah.
While many smaller organizations don't have the bandwidth, nor the budget, nor the people to actually do this type of measurements. And I think it indeed started with the moment you start with evidence-based. Everything had to be evidence-based. I think I was in a conference where somebody said, well, no, not everything has to be proven. Not everything has to be evidence-based. If you want to do and make some changes, you often have to take a plunge of confidence and do things. And afterwards, of course, you have to see what the difference was. But now it often becomes like a hurdle rather than something else. And in one of the articles that I've read, we were no longer talking about the digital divide that we see, but it's about the data divide.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with that. I don't have any solution for it. If there are solutions, I'm very happy to hear them, but it's real challenges.
Well, maybe not a solution, but maybe a counter to this might be to perhaps, and I mean, LinkedIn seems to be the platform where a lot of voices are getting heard, but maybe it would be a good idea for some, I don't know, people with kind of good ideas with names behind them to perhaps put out a bit of a counter challenge to all of this.
Yeah, and I think also that could be an idea, but also show your impact more with qualitative testimonials with what you're doing. It's not all about the numbers only. For me, also not that. That's what I'm saying. For me, a number is not a neutral thing. It's
Exactly, I think it's a choice you make as an organization,
Yeah.
right? To either invest in this data systems, this data visualization, and that's going to give you some advantages, comparative advantages in a more and more competitive environment.
Yeah.
There are other things that you
There
can
are other things
also
that you also
decide
can
to invest more or less in. It could be stories, or it could be your partnerships, or maybe you have a good speaker, you can speak like a TED talk kind of, and that will also draw another type of attention. So, but yeah, it's a balancing that you have to do as an organization. Where are you going to invest in? Maybe you invest in relationships. For us, it's a lot about, as PVLB, what is our relationship and our appreciation by the government, right? Because that also helps us to sell our story. And sometimes that it will be important for that relationship to have the data available. In other cases, it's just to have a very close relationship with some directors, maybe at the ministry, or even district officials. So it's a balancing that you have to do as an organization, because all of this takes time and resources, right? So
yeah, we are
Maybe
working now
I
2
can,
years, and
for the people online,
more
just have to.
possibilities to invest in all of this.
So for the people online, just to recapitulate what Tom said, it's a balancing act or a choice that you can make or have to make. Are you going to invest indeed in data, or are there any other unique things that you can do to actually make your organization stand out? Could be relationship building, indeed, with governments. You do TED Talk type of quality events that also distinguishes then you from the others. So not just with data, because it is indeed, it can be costly, time-consuming choice.
Absolutely. For VLIRUOS, it was a kind of logical choice because we already have so much data. We just didn't exploit it. Yeah?
It pretty much depends on who you address.
Yeah, also.
From my experience, of course, when you address funders, you start with a story. And your data support the story. But without the story, you don't go anywhere. We are mainly working with features. We have thousands of features that we own. We don't go with them with numbers and statistics or with it's a story. But of course,
it's supported by data, and
you have to
the story supports the data as well. They should go hand in hand.
As you rightfully said, in education and language education, I cannot prove, or it's very difficult to prove that the teacher that has been trained by us, that his or her students learn better than others. Well, I can do that at a very small scale, but you have that as substantial research. That's something you just cannot do. We have to assume that better and accept better trained teachers have better results with their students. But
You can't prove that.
we can't prove that
Like,
case by
okay,
case.
we needed an randomized control trial, it costs 3 million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
And we only have one case for one situation. And some bigger organizations have that available.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's in the interest of time, let's have two more questions. There's one online, and you also have one.
For me, one of the challenge, because we work in low-income country and I've been 5 years in Phnom Penh, so would agree, we're facing a lot of power cut, just uploading a picture is an issue. And for me, it's really, I see very much the interest if the child want to have a web page to show, to download what we do nicely, it's perfect. But what's your experience of trying to do this in low-income country with lack of electricity, lack of funding, lack of people to repair whatever is broken?
So the question is, what is your experience in trying to do this in what I would then call low resource areas?
Yeah. Yeah, I think our public with universities, it's better, but of course, as you said, our platform for the scholars is also on mobile available, and also our platform for where we collect the data is also, they prepare everything in Excel and Words and they can import it, so they can work in their old way, and it's for the offline, but it's also because they are used with working with rec changes and things like that. So they want to work together on files before they upload it. And offline is also one big thing. And I know I'm still waiting for small testimonials from Tanzania because they cannot get it uploaded in a way. On the other hand, I think it will evolve very, very fast. I don't think it will take so much time before most of the people get good connection, but we also have to look at low-tech options. But our platform, for example, working with academics and higher education institutes, is not available on an old school mobile at this moment. It's available on mobile, but not on an old school mobile. We also don't need it. But if you need it, the applications that I showed here, these ones, it's SMS based, for example. So that it's a very real challenge, of course, working in low-tech environments, absolutely. So as Peter said, it's one of the things that I'm really very interested in context, in ethics and equity and all these things. I'm also doing currently a study at KU Leuven about it, and it's very, very interesting, I have to say. But indeed, a few things of these are already mentioned. AI bias, I'm saying now, but I mean data bias. It's one of the things, and data gaps, what you said, like if you do not have all the information available, how can you draw the right conclusions? Yeah, then you cannot draw the conclusion in an evidence-based way. You have to gather this other information and link it with the data that you have to do the analysis and see if indeed your hypothesis is the correct one. But there is no other solution if you want to have evidence about it, of course, and work not from the feeling. I think it's food, but you can easily link the data these days. If you have data, you can link it. Data sovereignty is a very big one. I think that's for me. I think it's a very important one, and it's true. We talked about the data mining. The big tech is mining everywhere data. The value is created not where it should be created all the time. It's in low-income countries, it's a problem, but it's nowadays with the new context also here in Europe a problem. On all CIO conference since 2 months, they are only talking about data sovereignty. So it's a big thing. Who owns and controls the data, and where is the value added? Then also in the bias, you also have these Western epistemologies that are built in. Again, the example that you gave with the food, it's a thing that probably, if you ask it to ChatGPT, maybe they never will think about it because it's a thing that we don't know that much. So we have to be really careful because it can be very confusing, the answers they are giving. But besides the rightness of it and the bias that's there, it goes a lot further. Like the kind of thinking and all the cultural references are also mostly Western. People are trying to work on this to include other epistemologies, but it's still a lot of work, I think. And privacy is, of course, also mentioned. And then do not forget anyone, because that's also, if you are not seen in this data, nowadays, what you mentioned, it's a little bit, if you are not in the numbers, you do not count. I think it was also always the case. If you had censuses before, I remember in India, they did not count the homeless people, so they also did not exist. Now it's all in the digital way. If you are not there, you do not exist, and it creates like these digital black holes. One of the professors you are working with is working a lot on that. And it's indeed, if you are not there, you are forgotten. But also in memory building around things, it's who chooses to be there in the collective memory of us also. These are all things that certainly play in this data and in this digital context. So design for dignity, it's always co-create with the users, do not create for them. It's just a few things that are linked to design for dignity. Respect the local context, keep it simple as well, offline and low-tech options, which was also mentioned. And then the last one, combine the data with the stories, is a very, very important one also to keep the human aspect in this story, in the whole data thing. So the key messages, data into empowerment, not exhaustment, also a thing that was said. Everyone visible, it's mentioned already, data-driven, make it human-centered, build local value and avoid extractive data. And then ethics and dignity at the core. I think it's very important in the context, especially that we are working in. If you want to start, dream big, start small. Always start with very concrete, small use cases, pilot them, invest to understand the real message, the real question. Einstein once said, like 95% of my time I spend about thinking, it's only 5%, and then delivering the solution. Is the same here. We really have to, that we made mistakes in that way. So I know we really have to go out and ask, what do you mean? Not fill in the gaps. We humans are also a little bit like an AI. If we do not know some things, we just fill it in because we want to go on and work on. No, just go back to the user and see what is the real question, what do we really want to gain. And then agile, short and fast feedback loops. The challenges that we face the most is data quality and governance. If the quality is not good, garbage in, garbage out, it costs a lot of time. And then also we underestimate often the data literacy and also the digital savviness of our users, also of the young people. Clara is the youngest here, but also so we always think everybody will know, but and everybody talks in the same language, but it's not the case. That's my presentation. I don't know if there are
There's one question in the chat. Do all universities and their partners need to enter the data in a cloud-based application designed by VLIRUOS?
Our partners do have to use our platform when they want to apply for a grant and to report back to us. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And our scholars also have to apply to the platform. Of course, if I'm saying now what we are showing, for example, if we are showing the names, it's not published yet, but we are showing names of promoters and of team members in just so that people can contact each other. We will also build on that it will be easy to contact them. But GDPR-wise and privacy-wise, that's the empowerment of the user. It will be in the platform that they can say, I do not want this. So that are things that we really have still to adapt on, but that will be the case. We will not show data if they do not want it. They have to show data for accountability about the project. That's in our contract that they have to show kind of,
Commitment.
Commitment, and we have to be accountable to the Belgian. So far, we only have funding from the Belgian government, so we have to be accountable to the government and the taxpayer, of course.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
I'll hand
Good.
it over now to Mark, who will share his perspective indeed from a little bit less
Mhm.
high resource environment.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, good. Well, meanwhile, good afternoon to all. I'll start with giving a very short overview of who we are and what we do. We work in Cambodia, mainly in Siem Reap, which is a city northeast of Cambodia, well known by Angkor Wat. We are teacher trainers. What is the background? In Cambodia, sixth grade students, 1 out of 2, cannot read. 75% of grade 6 students miss minimum proficiency in mathematics. By the age of 15, 60 to 70% dropped out of school. Cambodia in 2022, for the first time, participated in PISA for education and ranked last of all participating countries. That's the context in which we work. We focus on English teachers as part of bilingual education as one of the keys to the solution. So we train English teachers for public schools. We've done this so far mainly in the province of Siem Reap, but now in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, we are expanding to the rest of the country. We have been accredited as a provider of continuous professional development for teachers. And the trainings we give and the coaching we give and the education we give to teachers counts as credits in their career, but also as credits for university students pursuing bachelor or master degrees at Cambodian universities. We focus on English because of 3 main reasons. One, well, English is the international language. Cambodia is surviving on tourism, garment industry, and a bit of agriculture. Well, no business, no tourism, no technology, no university degree, whatever, without English, of course. Secondly, bilingual education has some cognitive benefits for students. So it is widely accepted and supported that students who learn more than one language have also an advantage in other subjects. It's not just about language education. And the third reason is that we use English as an enabler for other subjects. Wherever you go in the country, you ask parents, what do you want your children to learn? What's most important? There's only one answer that you will hear. It's English, English, English. Even though we know that they need more than just English. But it's by enhancing the quality of English education that you keep kids at school, that you can motivate kids to stay at school, and that you can motivate parents to keep their kids at school. It's a very important enabler. So we specialized in that area. From the early days when we did it, we started gathering, because we started as a very small local organization with 2 or 3 people with a budget of 20, 30,000 euro a year. That's 10 years ago. And in the early days, like everybody, you keep some Excel files with the names of your students. And maybe with an attendance list, and then another Excel file with the address list of the parents, and then another Excel file with some phone numbers. And then you had on Telegram a group of your students, and you had somewhere else. That's how it worked. But bit by bit, that became a bit complicated. I asked one of our trainers, which percentage of the schools in Siem Reap province do you think we've covered? And he said, yeah, we must be close to 90%. Actually, it was 42. But that was just, and I think many people recognize this is how things work. So we decided, okay, that we need to do something about this information, have it clearly in one system and not just in Excel files. So we implemented CRM, which is a CRM system. It's open source, designed for civil society organizations. And that fit very well our needs. It's low cost. Actually, you don't have to pay a license fee, but you need a server to run it on. So there is some cost, but it's really, if you can manage it yourself and you can maintain it yourself, it comes with a relatively low cost. And I'm talking now about, for us, around between $1,000 and $1,500 per year. It's no more cost than that. So that's apart from human work, of course. So we implemented that, and we started keeping all the information there. And that was very useful because each time you talk with a student, the trainee, you had his history or her history before you. When you talk to a headmaster, you had the history of all the teachers of that school. When you talk to a district officer, you had the history of all the people in that district, in the schools in that district in front of you. Someone moved from one school to the other and the information followed. So that was on the operational side, very easy. I'll show you immediately what that means in real life. And then the second aspect is overview. Yeah, which percentage of schools did we reach? How many trainees did we really train? When they came to base training and later on they came to follow-up workshops, how many did attend? How many times did on average they attend? How many male and female? We always think, yeah, it's more or less 50-50, but actually, yeah, that we think it's about, but we have the numbers and that helps. What's the limitation? This is all quantitative data. There is a hint of qualitative data where we keep for every student, they graduate certificate level A, B, C, D. But more inside data about interviews with students, of course, you cannot do that well, we keep this data too, but there is still much more human intervention needed. And people are talking about, yeah, feed that all to AI, and AI will make you some reports. I think it's a bit early for that. Okay, let me show you a little bit how this works. Just technically, CVCRM, it's a web-based product. It runs on any web server, standalone or as a part of WordPress or any other platform. It's relatively easy to maintain. Our system runs on a server in Singapore to keep it out of the hands of the Cambodian government. Not that we have secrets, but we not really trust them 100%. It is a hosting company. And it is, of course, protected. It's username, password, and two-factor authentication. It is quite well protected until now. We're using it now since 6 or 7 years. And we never had any security or data issues. Okay. I'll just take a practical example. So I'm going to search for a trainee. So I search. I look in my contacts. Let's say search. And I have all people with Ratana in their name. And actually, I'm going to take Mr. Yang Ratanak. He knows that I'm using his data and he agreed. Okay. And anyway, you don't know who he is. Okay, what do I see? Well, he's a teacher, so it's Mr. Ratanak Yeng. He's a teacher at Hun Sen VLIRUOS Primary School in Cambodia. We see his phone number, we see his email address, date of birth and age. And in the relationship, we see that he's an employee of this school. We don't keep more data, like address, etc., because in Cambodia, streets have no name, houses have no numbers, and the post doesn't work anyway. So there's no use in keeping that. We only keep zip codes for schools, because these can be linked by zip code to districts, and districts to communes and to provinces. But for the individual people, we don't care about this. The most important actually is the phone number, because the way people in Cambodia communicate mainly is Telegram, much more than email. And we have to adapt there. Okay, what do I see more here? Mr. Ratanak participated in 7 different events. So I see he participated in an alumni meetup on the 20th of March, on an alumni meetup on the 20th of February, on an ICT workshop. And he was part of the EPST 2023 program, which is a 12-month teacher training program. I can see here everything, what he did. And if I go, for example, to this EPST group, EPST, English for Primary School Teachers, okay, we see that it's, I'm going to look at all the participants, and I see all the other participants who were in this course. There were 16 participants in this course. And from here, I can click further to any participant and look at the details of these participants. So I can find my people through an event, through their name, or through any relationship. For example, I go back. And let's say I want to talk to the head teacher of the school where Mr. Ratanak teaches. I look at, he's an employee of this school. I click on this school. I have the data of this school. And I see all the relationships of this school. So I see all the other teachers from this school. So I talk to the principal of the school, and I know I can talk about all these people because they're all working for this school. And then so it's very easy in the operational way of doing. I go back to Mr. I can turn in Mr. Ratanak. I see he got 20 mailings. Because we use the system also to get mailings. The system also tracks whether they open the mails and whether they click on links, but I have my doubts on the reliability of this kind of data. I've already found that this is not always very accurate. And to me also, I think this has an intrusion on privacy. Of course, we are in Cambodia. We're not GDPR doesn't apply to us as long as the people are not in Europe. But we see also that there were activities. And activities, I'm going to exclude here the registration ones. Event registration. I'm going to exclude. But then I see we went to his school 3 times outside of the course for coaching activities. And for example, I look at the results of that. I see this was done by Mr. Chamron, which is one of our coaches. Third round observation, which was on 6th of June 2024, which lasted 18 minutes. And that's the details of the strengths, suggestions for improvement, suggestions, and even the lesson plan of that observed class was attached. We have all this data. It's a bit a challenge to keep it all up to date, especially changing phone numbers. People are very messy on that, and we not always know, of course. And also because we do this all in English, but as you know, Cambodian writing is different, and names of people, people change their names. I don't like my name anymore. I changed my name. You have father, mother, 3 children from the same father and mother, and the 3 children have a different last name. How that works, so it's a challenge also to keep this data clean. Also, the transliteration from Khmer alphabet to Latin alphabet is sometimes a little challenge. But we are quite confident that this relatively, let's say 98% is okay. But there is a small evolution. This way, we keep all the data for everybody. Every activity, everything has to be kept there. And then, of course, I need overview. So you can export from here to Excel. What we did is we export it to Excel, of course, but then we load it into a Power BI model where we transform the data and combine it with other data sources. For example, there is a source linking zip codes from schools to districts and to cluster schools, because that's the structure of education of schools in Cambodia. And yeah, this is a standard system. We don't want to change the system because then at each update you have to change it again. So we do that in Power BI. And that's working very well. How does that look? You cannot see this screen, so I have to do something else here. I think I have to stop sharing. Yes. And yeah, share screen, but where do I? Oh, here. No. Oh, you are sharing. Share. I'm going to share the screen. That's going to. Sorry for this. Is it back? Yeah. Okay. Good. So this is, for example, data exported, and then year by year or academic year by academic year, type of program, base training for teachers. In 2021, we had 22 in this program and 12 in this program, and you see it year by year with the totals. We have the CPD activities, program by program, year by year. CSC is the training of students at the Provincial Teacher Training College, which we only started here in 2024-25. Online self-study programs, and then our practice school, you see the number of students we have with totals and subtotals. This is just pivot tables. Our dropouts, well, I know exactly who are our dropouts, how many dropouts we have. If I ask our teachers, how many dropouts do you have? They say, no, none. Well, yes, we have. And for example, here, you see in the English for Teachers program, we have a relatively high number of dropouts. It's still below 5%. But compared to the other programs, it's high. What's going on there? Then you go back to the system to check case by case because they have a reason code why they dropped out. and we can see whether we have to do something on it. Most of these cases, it's either because they move to another province or wherever, or because of health reasons. It's very seldom that it is because they don't like the course. That's just one or two. So we are quite, but we know we can measure. Participants by gender. As we can see, we still have somebody here without a gender. So sometimes there is a bit of data missing. But we can see it's quite 50-50 everywhere. Male, female, male, female. The participants detail the program, and I can turn these data in all kinds of directions. Of course, what I cannot show in this kind of overviews is the coaching we did, because the coaches made some remarks. This is text. This I can make a summary, but I cannot make an aggregation of data because it's unstructured data. That's a limitation of this kind of system. But it's a way of working that is even for smaller NGOs. We started with this when we had 10 staff. And we had a budget of, I think when we started with this, about $100,000 per year. So a very small organization. We've now evolved to over 40 people staff. And actually, we're lucky that we started it at the early stage because we have all the data and we could try it out and change and adapt with limited data. And now that we have more and more and more data, you see here, let me take this one. In our CPD programs, you see how the number of participants explodes. And 2024, 2025, this is only the first semester because the second semester started a week ago, so the data are not yet there. So luckily, we started this at a very early stage that gave us the opportunity to do this with limited data and to create a culture with our team that these data are important. By the way, also our team members, when they do CPD, so continuous professional development activities for themselves, so they participate in courses as students or as trainees, they have to register in the system too. Because no registration in the system means no expenses paid, and it's not taken in the annual evaluation. And so it will not be counted for promotion or for salary increase or whatsoever. It's a way to show that that's important. Because that's one of the most important things. The whole team has to understand that this is important. If people are not willing to work on clean data, it's a mess in no time. So we have now hired a junior data manager. It's a university student who's going to work half-time for us just to keep data clean. Because also you can import data from Excel, but actually very often it's easier if you have a course with, let's say, 25 participants. It's faster to enroll them manually, one by one, than to import from Excel. Because you have the doubles and they mix up first name and last name, or the last name is written a little bit more different than the first name. The email addresses as a common, most people don't even have an email address, or they don't know their own email address, so we cannot use this. So having your people aware of the importance of the quality of data is important. But it's a very down-to-earth approach. Every coach, before going to a school to observe or to work with a teacher, goes into the system and you find the history of what this trainee did. Because we all think, oh yeah, but we know our trainees. Everybody's saying, no, we don't need that. We know our trainees. It's very easy. Pick any name. Do you remember this one? No. The ones who show up every 2 months, you know them, but the ones who don't show up very regularly, and you see the total number of people, you cannot know all these people. That's just impossible. Now we are evolving to a next stage with our organization where in the province of Siem-Reap, we have built all these building blocks of English teacher training, language proficiency, pedagogy, coaching, mentoring, CPD for work-based training. Now we're going to roll this out in other provinces. So our number of trainees will be a 20-fold of what we have now. The last numbers I got from the Ministry of Education is that there are 143,000 teachers working in public schools. They will not all teach English. But eventually, yes, because the official plan of the Ministry of Education is to have English as a subject from grade 1. But that will take, I don't know how many years. But these data, yeah, for me, it's a very down-to-earth, very practical example of how this can be done. And we are happy with our solution. Works well, is reliable, it's easy to maintain. You need a bit of technical knowledge to set it up and to do the upgrades. I don't know if some people use Moodle, for example, because we use Moodle too. But Moodle update is a one click. And there is an installer doing that for you, and you don't, this not. This you have to do it manually. So you have to go in the server's file manager, delete files, replace it with others. It's a manual thing. Yeah, and that requires a bit of knowledge. But you have to know what you do when you work on the server. But for the user side, it's quite easy. It's basic. It's no rocket science. I think that's in a nutshell the example of how we do that. I don't know if there are any questions.
There are no questions in the chat, but maybe in the room.
The data, but I was just interested that you're expanding to all of the provinces in Cambodia. What do you think about provinces where there's multiple languages, like Mandalay or Nigerian, indigenous languages, and Fijian English? Well, does that pose any?
Maybe you can repeat the question.
Yeah, so she's asking about provinces with indigenous languages, Mondulkiri, Ratanakiri, where there are relatively small groups of people speaking a very local language, and they already struggle with learning Cambodian, so Khmer, as a second language. Yes, but I have to admit they are not on our priority list. We are an organization with 40 people, and we have a population of over 140,000 teachers to serve, of which a few hundred are in these communities. So we have not put them as our priority group. Also, the new plan of the Ministry of Education, which has been published not more than 1.5 weeks ago, for the new approaches of teacher training in the country, Mondulkiri and Ratanakiri are a blank space. So it's something we will have to discuss with the government. We are also working of assisting an organization in Laos, where the problem of indigenous languages is much bigger than in Cambodia. We have not till now not so much experience with this, so it has not been on our agenda.
Good question. Yep.
So can you describe what your teacher training or professional development model is and the journey of a teacher throughout it?
Yes. So we are focusing on for the pre-service teachers. We are setting up, and that's quite new because the government just released 1 week and a half ago now the model, is we're going to develop together with the Ministry of Education the curriculum for second language pedagogy for the teacher education colleges. Because today it's not a subject, it's not on their curriculum. So we're going to have them developing the curriculum based on our experience, what we have. For the in-service training, that's the 140,000 active teachers. We have a base training program, which today is 12 months, 40 weeks workshops, so 40 workshops, plus coaching in class, based on the model of communicative language teaching and content and language integrated. Content and language integrated learning, sorry. And then beside that, we have follow-up workshops with alumni meetups, specific workshops. For this, at this moment, we have over 200 of these activities, but these are usually one-day workshops, over 200 per year, where teachers who did the base training or who comply to the standards, some who did a TDSO training at university don't have to do our base training, of course. They can participate in these activities. In the future, we will evolve. We've built all these kind of building blocks in Sylvie province. They will be transposed to other provinces based on a cooperation with the regional teacher training colleges that are transformed to centers for lifelong learning, for teachers. And we will be not the teacher trainers, but the teacher trainers. With expert trainers helping the local trainers to roll it out in their province. So also with coaching, not coaching the teachers, but training the coaches who are going to coach in the different schools. Because we just, how would we be able to train 130,000 teachers? That is, if you see now, I need actually 2 full-time people to train 48 teachers during a whole year. So you can calculate how many people I would need if we need to train 100,000. That is not just realistic. And that is also not the role of an NGO. What we see as our role is to transform the way the public sector trains their teachers. And we are quite successful in that. It's a bit strange, but in Cambodia, we are the only NGO doing this. A lot of NGOs have teacher training somewhere in their portfolio. Some of them have a little bit of English teacher training in their portfolio, but that's already occasionally, somewhere a little project, but nobody has this as a really focus of the activity. And we don't do anything else. Like VLIRUOS is working on teacher training, mainly on the teacher training colleges and the teacher education colleges. And what has been done in Phnom Penh and in Battambang is excellent work. And I hope now with 4 more teacher education colleges that will be set up in the next years. There is no timeline that you will be able to continue this work. It's wonderful, but English is not part of that. So we're going to add English as a component. Of course, the situation in the last months, as you all know, has changed due to the political situation in the United States. The USAID was playing an important role and was an important facilitator.
Good.
Okay.
We are running a bit over time, but I think we can have one more question from the chat. There are actually two questions, but very much related to each other. And it's for accurate and timely data. Do the teachers fill it in themselves, and how often is it updated? And Sophie actually added to that, how do you manage to keep up with all the regular updates?
The updates in terms of participation of two events, it's done by a data manager. So the teachers and the trainers have to provide the Excel data. It's also online registration based on Microsoft Forms, so it's quite easy. We have data, but there is a data manager who compiles everything in the system to make sure the data are clean. That's for participation and base data. But the data concerning coaching, so the report of their coaching sessions, every trainer has to do that themselves.
Yep.
Is that a good answer?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So let's wrap it up. I think we had a very interesting, lively discussion here. We started with that data is the new oil, all the way to how you can update indeed data and databases, which is probably one of the biggest challenges. I think we touched upon quite some interesting points about data integrity, all the the decisions made on data, the potential of a chasm between the companies or organizations that can work with data, that invest in data structures, and those who simply do not have the opportunity, the bandwidth, the scale, or whatever. But then there are other opportunities to differentiate yourself. So I think we touched upon a lot of very interesting things, and I would like to thank our two panelists, Michaela and Mark, for that. And I shall hand it over to you, Maria, for a final word.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and I would like to thank Peter, but I think mostly people didn't see you on the screen because you're on the side of our speakers, Mika and Mark. Very thank you to share this moment, this insight with us. I learned a lot, I would say, when I saw the title of the Connect&Learn. I said, okay, is it something for me, maybe too technical, but I think we can also use some insightful information for the Educate platform. So thank you for that. I would just like to inform the people online and people here with us that there will be another Connect&Learns very soon, May 19, on the use of AI in education with Tine de Laat from KU Leuven, and also in cooperation with Mika and with Peter. And there's another one in June 10, with VLIRUOS South Africa, and the launch of a book written by Jan Peters on early childhood development. And more information very soon on our website, so you can register on the website. See you soon, back for an Educate event, and thank you for joining us. Have a nice day.